was once a safe town where nothing exciting ever happens. Yet one day, it was almost as if Hawkins became cursed. But why? Maybe we'll never know for sure. But why don't we figure out a thing or two here on the Hawkins Files? Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on the Hawkins Files. In today's video, we're going to be going over the last 3 episodes of Season 4, which will wrap up our whole section of the recap seasons. Now, what's so exciting about this is after I'm done recapping all these seasons, we go into the more extensive part of this series where we go over behind the scenes stuff, theories, all that exciting stuff. And then we're currently on that final countdown for Stranger Things Season 5. Now, to start off this recap video, we go into Episode 7. The first thing we see, Nancy, Robin, and Eddie all going into the Upside Down to save Steve because he had just gotten grappled by one of the vines that completely pulled him through the water gate. Next thing we see Joyce, Murray, and Yuri all going into Kamchatka to get Hopper out. And Hopper is currently in a situation where he's about to be fighting the Demogorgon. Now, the group that's currently in the Upside Down, the main way they have to communicate is through the lights. And they figure this out because back in Season 1, Will used the lights to talk to Joyce. So they figure they're going to have to use the lights in order to communicate with the group back in Hawkins to try to get out of the Upside Down since the Watergate is being guarded by the bats. Now, as we see Hopper and the other Russians fighting the Demogorgon, we see Hopper put his plan into action by using a cloth and a lighter as well as some alcohol for fire fuel because we know that the Demogorgon, they don't like fire. Anything from the Upside Down doesn't like fire. So he lights a spear on fire with the cloth, alcohol, and the lighter to back it away so that way they can try to open the door and get out of that little prison-like area to escape the Demogorgon. And then through the Nina Project tank that Elle's using to regain her powers, we see the flashbacks once again, and it shows that Henry is actually number 1, and he actually has powers, and he's just like 11. But then we see Henry, he's killing literally all the other numbers, 2 through like 20, and then 11's the only one that survives, because he actually wants 11 still alive to kind of be part of his plan. Now, as this is all going on, Nancy gets pulled into a vision by Vecna, while the others are escaping the Upside Down, and Steve stays behind to try to save her, but there's nothing they can really do. And all of Henry's past gets revealed. He is always been a different child. He was actually the child of Victor Creel. And then during this process, 11 and Henry have a big fight, and it gets to a point where Elle has to use the strength from her past and anger in order to stop Henry. And then at the end of this episode, we see that Elle ends up trapping Henry in the Upside Down, and after all these years, he becomes Vecna. Now going into episode 8, we see Vecna showing Nancy near the end of this vision that she's having basically the future of what's going to happen in Vecna's plan. 4 gates equals the end of the world. So if Vecna can successfully kill off one last person, all those gates open and they collide into one singular gate. Now, they're convinced that the only way to kill Vecna is that they basically have to hold him in one of the visions before they can successfully take him out, because if they just go straight one-on-one, they're not going to have a fair fight and they're going to be screwed. So during this, they use Max as bait. Max is going to be thrown into another vision because she can still feel Vecna. He just isn't currently going after her until she makes it known that she wants to die. Now, during all this, Elle finds out, and she wants to go back to Hawkins, but Dr. Brenner does not like this idea. And he ends up putting the collar on her that he uses on 2 to punish since he bullied 11 back in the 1970s. And then as this happens, the military shows up and ends up killing everyone. And then also Martin Brenner, Dr. Owens is held hostage, but 11's able to kill all the outside group, and she ends up getting reunited with the group from California, Mike, Will, Jonathan, and Argyle. Now, the Kamchatka group also managed to escape the prison, but in doing so, they end up finding out about the demodogs that are currently being caged and held, and there's even a portion of the mind flayer still held up, and it's on their mind as they're escaping Kamchatka. Now, the Hawkins group, in order to take out Vecna, they're going to need weapons. So they end up heading to this weapon shop outside of town. They end up encountering the basketball group, and Nancy and Jason end up having this intense confrontation. And it's known that Jason is very clearly after the Hellfire Club because they're still under the assumption that this is Eddie's fault. Now, the Kamchatka group, they head back to the shed where Hopper originally escaped and where Yuri was supposed to meet him up, because that's going to be where the helicopter is to get them back home. Now, as part of the plan in Hawkins, Erica, Lucas, and Max, they all head to the Creel house. That's where Max is going to lure Vecna in as bait. The plan is in motion as we end the episode and go into episode 9, where we see this plan go into motion. And during this, back to Russia, and we see a romantic moment with Hopper and Joyce, and they finally have their kiss as they're talking about dinner that was supposed to happen at the end of season 3, but didn't end up happening. But they clearly they're still planning on doing it. Unfortunately, since the California group, they're still clear in Nevada, they're not going to be able to make it back to Hawkins in time to fight Vecna. So 11 comes up with the plan to make a makeshift tank in order to use her mind to basically get into Max's mind. And that's going to be how she can fight Vecna, even though she's not in Hawkins. Now, during this, obviously, Max is pulled into the vision because Vecna is fully aware of what she's doing. So the plan isn't going to go it's not going to go well. And they basically end up meeting back up with 11 in the vision, and Elle and Vecna have another fight. In Kamchatka, the group, they have to go back in because they can't get back to Hawkins in time either. The only way they can possibly help from Russia is if they kill the Demodogs in the prison as well as the Mind Flayer portion. Now, as 11 is fighting Vecna, the California group on the outside of the tank can very clearly tell that this is a tough fight and she's having a hard time fighting him alone. But we can hear Mike. He's telling 11 that he loves her, and it basically gives her the strength to fight on, because that's what she really needs in order to stop Vecna in this moment. During this, Lucas and Jason also have a fight, and Lucas gets beaten up pretty bad. Unfortunately, Jason ends up destroying the headset that Max is supposed to use in order to get her out once the plan is going well. So now Max can't get out, and unfortunately it leads to a point where Vecna does get a hold of her, and he goes to kill her, and all of her bones are completely broken, her eyes are completely grayed out, but 11 comes in just in time to barely save her life, except not. It doesn't work out very well. She ends up dying. The 4th gate opens, but shortly after, she is able to bring her back, but it puts her in this coma going into season 5, so we don't know what Max's fate is going into season 5. Back in Kamchatka, we see Hopper, Joyce, and Murray. They're all going after the Demogorgons, and Hopper gets chased, and he almost gets killed by a Demodog, and it becomes a very grueling moment, but they're able to kill them all. And it basically, since it's all hive mind for the Upside Down, it ends up hurting Vecna. The Nancy, Steve, and Robin, they use their little makeshift fire flame bottles to throw them at Vecna, and it basically lights him on fire. Nancy pulls out a shotgun and shoots him several times. He goes flying out the window and falls onto the ground. But by the time they get back outside, he's already gone. Going into season 5, Vecna will still be alive. Now, we have a little bit of a time jump 2 days in the future. The dust is somewhat settled, but the gates are open, and everyone's aware that Vecna is not going to stop. He's going to come back. But the Cali group, the Kamchatka group, they all reunite back in Hawkins, and it becomes this big reunion moment between the groups. Worst situation possible, because they've basically lost. But there's still maybe a chance to come back, but there are going to be some casualties going into it. So given that, that is the end of this recap video of Season 4. Starting next video, we're going to actually go back in time, because I'm guessing you guys are aware, the Season 1 recap video never got released. And the file that I originally recorded, it kind of got corrupted. So I'm going to have to go back. So next video, We're going to recap season 1. But starting after that, we're going to finally start these more in-depth videos about the different portions of the seasons. So it's not just going to be recaps, theories, behind the scenes, that sort of jazz. And then, come November 26th, Season 5, Volume 1 comes out, and a load of content going into December is going to be released. So I'm really excited for the future of this podcast because finished all the recaps going into November. Now it's that final countdown as we go to Season 5. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys all later. And remember, this has been the Hawkins Files.